You followed the rules because you were told rules protect you. You stayed quiet because you believed restraint was maturity. You offered honesty thinking it would be returned. And yet you watched people step over your silence, drain your loyalty, and sharpen themselves on your openness. You were not wrong about morality. You were wrong about power. The world does not reward goodness. It rewards control. What survives is not the honest man, but the unreadable one. Not the loyal one, but the positioned one. There comes a moment when a man realizes that asking for fairness is a confession of weakness. That moment is not loud. It is cold. It is the instant you stop hoping people will change and start deciding that you will. Machiavelli understood this fracture. He did not preach virtue. He studied outcomes. He saw that men are not broken by cruelty but by exposure. They fall when their intentions are visible, when their emotions leak, when their need for approval gives others a handle. God mode begins when you remove the handles. No guilt, no justification, no visible hunger, only intent, only distance, only control exercised without noise. Before power is built, the craving to be seen must die. Recognition is the first currency predators steal. The moment you want credit, you advertise your moves. You speak too early, you explain too much, you reveal motive. The powerful do not need witnesses, they need results. So you detach from applause. You stop correcting misunderstandings. You let others misread you. Invisibility becomes your advantage. Psychological, not physical. You are present without being available. You act without being announced. You let them believe you are smaller than you are because underestimation is a shield. Fear is not rage. It is hesitation. It is the pause before crossing you. It is the lowered voice when your name enters the room. Love breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds entitlement. Entitlement invites violation. Fear does not. Controlled fear creates order where morality collapses. You no longer care how they feel about you. You care how they behave when they consider you. That shift rewires the dynamic. Your presence becomes a factor, not a personality, a condition. Unpredictability is the first instrument. Predictable men are mapped. Mapped men are managed. So you break patterns. You do not react on schedule. You do not reward expectation. Silence replaces explanation. Delay replaces immediacy. Your approval becomes scarce. Your attention becomes expensive. They begin to calculate around you. Calculation is obedience without command. Disproportion teaches memory. Calm most of the time. Final when crossed. Not loud, not emotional. Consequences delivered cleanly. Access removed. Opportunities withdrawn. The punishment is not the act. It is the permanence. Once is enough. After that, your reputation enforces itself. You no longer need to respond. The memory responds for you. Absence multiplies influence. Attention is a drug. You withdraw it strategically. Conversations end unfinished. Replies arrive late. Presence becomes intermittent. They think of you more when you are gone. Tension grows in the gap. Power does not chase. It haunts. Never explain. Explanation concedes authority. Reasons invite debate. Debate invites erosion. Outcomes end discussion. Let them wonder. Confusion feeds fear. Silence builds myth. This is not cruelty. It is efficiency. Power weakens when visible. The hand behind the throne lasts longer than the face on it. You guide without owning the spotlight. Others speak. You listen. Others fight. You calculate. Others chase credit. You collect leverage. The result appears inevitable because it was designed without witnesses. Your image becomes a weapon, not fame, not noise, a presence that precedes you. People adjust before you speak. They measure words. They rehearse. They hesitate. They cannot place you. They cannot predict you. Imagination fills the gaps. Imagination is harsher than reality. Emotion is the final chain. As long as anger steers you, others can provoke you. As long as guilt moves you, others can bind you. Feel everything. Act on nothing unless it serves position. Pain becomes data. Betrayal becomes timing. Love becomes leverage. Justice becomes irrelevant. Leverage replaces it. You stop asking if actions are fair. You ask if they fortify your position. You stop seeking forgiveness. You seek permanence. You do not need to be understood. You need to be unavoidable. Comfort is the last trap. When power starts working, the urge to be liked returns. Resist it. The moment you explain, you descend. Stay distant. Stay unreadable. Let them know the mask, not the man. You become your own territory. No ideology owns you. No crowd absorbs you. You listen to all. Reveal to none. You are referenced without being reached, studied without being known, challenged without being touched. This is not ascension through noise. It is elevation through removal. You disappear from the cage and operate the locks. You stop reacting and start shaping. You are not equal. You are the lesson. Once the hunger for approval is extinguished, something unfamiliar takes its place. Silence stops feeling empty and starts feeling sharp. You notice how quickly others expose themselves when they believe no one is judging. You notice how often people speak to fill fear, not to communicate truth. You stop correcting them. Correction teaches nothing. Observation teaches everything. Power grows in the gaps where others rush to explain. Machiavelli understood that men reveal more when they feel safe. So you create safety without warmth. You listen without affirmation. You allow pauses to stretch. In those pauses, people confess through tone, through posture, through the stories they choose to tell. You collect patterns. Patterns become predictions. Predictions become leverage. This is not paranoia. It is literacy in human behavior. You begin to treat emotion as weather. It passes. It does not command. Anger becomes an indicator of territory touched. Fear becomes a signal of value at risk. Affection becomes a bid for access. You acknowledge these signals internally and refuse to broadcast them. Broadcasts invite interference. You keep your internal climate sealed. Outside, your expression remains neutral. Inside, calculation deepens. Speech changes. Words are rationed. Every sentence earns its place. You stop arguing. Arguments trade power for noise. You ask questions instead. Questions reposition you above the exchange. The one who asks frames reality. The one who answers defends. Silence after a question is pressure. Pressure reveals priorities. You wait. They fill the space. Presence becomes deliberate. You do not rush entrances. You do not linger exits. You arrive composed, leave early, and explain neither. Scarcity attaches value to everything you do. Availability dilutes it. People begin to schedule around you. They measure requests. They soften demands. Your calendar becomes a boundary without saying no. You learn the discipline of the unmoved face. Micro-reactions are liabilities. Raised brows, tightened lips, restless hands. These are tells. You train them out through discomfort. Sit still under provocation. Breathe slowly under accusation. Let your eyes rest without challenge. The world searches for confirmation and finds none. They project authority onto your composure. Reputation forms without announcement. Not through stories you tell, but through outcomes others witness. Deals tilt your way. Conflicts resolve in your favor. Those who challenge you find doors closed later without confrontation. Cause and effect appear detached from you. That detachment is protection. No one can strike what they cannot link. You learn to separate kindness from access. Kindness is cheap. Access is not. You can be courteous without being available. generous without being exposed, warm without being owned. This balance confuses manipulators who rely on intimacy to extract concessions. They mistake courtesy for weakness and overreach. Overreach triggers consequence. Consequence is clean. No lectures, no warnings, no emotional residue. A privilege ends, a channel closes, a partnership dissolves. You move on without commentary. The absence of drama amplifies the effect. People fear what ends quietly more than what explodes publicly. Quiet endings imply preparation. You stop announcing goals. Announced goals attract interference. You work in parallel lanes. Redundancy replaces hope. Options replace dependency. The ability to walk away becomes your primary asset. The one who can leave controls terms. You cultivate exits everywhere, not because you plan to flee, but because exits enforce respect. Time becomes your ally. You slow interactions, you delay decisions. Urgency is usually borrowed fear. When others rush, you wait. Waiting creates mistakes for them and clarity for you. They reveal what they cannot wait to protect. You discover what matters most by watching impatience. Your identity becomes modular. Different contexts see different facets. No one gets the whole. This is not deception. It is compartmentalization. Complex systems survive through separation. You are a complex system. Leakage invites sabotage. You seal compartments. You stop explaining standards. Standards explained are negotiable. Standards enforced are absolute. You let behavior meet consequences without debate. The message travels faster than words. People learn how to behave around you by watching what happens to those who do not. Emotionally, you decouple from outcomes. Attachment clouds timing. Detachment sharpens it. You care about trajectory, not moments. Loss becomes recalibration. Success becomes silence. Celebration attracts eyes. Eyes attract challenge. You celebrate privately. Your circle contracts, not out of bitterness, but efficiency. Fewer variables mean fewer leaks. Those who remain understand boundaries without reminders. Loyalty is measured by behavior under constraint, not promises under comfort. You test gently. You observe quietly. You replace without announcement. You adopt the long view. Immediate satisfaction is traded for durable advantage. You plant seeds where others demand harvests. Patience compounds. Your calm becomes disarming because it signals reserves. Reserves imply power. Power implies consequence. When challenged publicly, you respond minimally or know when to ignore. Engagement elevates the challenger. Silence demotes them. If response is necessary, it is brief and definitive. No follow-up, no debate. The crowd moves on. You remain. You stop consuming noise. Opinion weakens clarity. You curate inputs. Fewer voices, better data. Thinking improves when the mind is not crowded. Decisions become cleaner. Confidence follows not from bravado, but from preparation. Fear shifts direction. You stop fearing judgment and start fearing exposure. Exposure is the true risk. You protect information. You protect rhythm. You protect your peace because peace fuels precision. By now, people sense the change. They cannot name it. They feel it. Interactions slow around you. Requests soften. Threats dissolve into politeness. This is not because you intimidate overtly. It is because you are no longer pliable. You have not become cruel. You have become exact. You do not seek conflict. You end it efficiently when it arrives. You do not seek dominance. You remove vulnerability. Dominance follows. This is the middle passage, the shedding of noise, the tightening of boundaries, the replacement of reaction with design. You are not finished, but you are no longer reachable in the ways that once harmed you. Control deepens when you stop reacting to provocations designed to measure you. Tests arrive disguised as jokes, favors, emergencies, and moral appeals. Each one asks the same question: can he be moved? You answer by not moving. The still point becomes your signature. People learn that pressure does not accelerate you. It exposes them. You begin to sense timing as a weapon. Acting early satisfies ego. Acting late satisfies power. You allow situations to ripen. Opponents reveal allies. Allies reveal costs. Costs reveal intentions. By the time you move, the field is already shaped in your favor. It appears effortless because the work was invisible. You learn the value of asymmetry. Direct confrontation is crude. Indirect outcomes are clean. You adjust incentives instead of issuing commands. You change access instead of raising voices. You shift structures instead of winning arguments. People adapt without realizing they have been guided. Resistance fades when it cannot find a surface. You stop offering assurances. Assurance creates dependence and expectation. Expectation invites disappointment. Disappointment invites leverage against you. You replace assurance with consistency. Consistency builds credibility without promises. Promises bind. Consistency frees. Your memory becomes selective. You forget insults quickly and remember patterns permanently. One insult is noise. Repeated behavior is signal. You act only on signals. This frustrates those who rely on single moments to define narratives. They find no purchase. You separate identity from role. Roles change. Identity remains private. In each environment, you perform only what the environment requires. Excess authenticity is leakage. You keep a core that no context accesses. This core becomes your ballast. You begin to anticipate second-order effects. Every move creates ripples. You account for the ripples before acting. Short wins that create long enemies are losses. Quiet wins that create stability are victories. You choose the latter. Your patience becomes feared because it implies foresight. You master the art of the delayed response. Messages wait. Decisions rest. Emotions cool. When you reply, the moment has shifted. Others are no longer operating at peak emotion. Your response lands with disproportionate force because it arrives after the surge. Calm beats heat. You refine your exits. Exits are rehearsed mentally before they are needed. When the time comes, you leave without friction. No bridges burned loudly. Bridges quietly dismantled. The absence of spectacle denies others the story they want to tell about you. You cultivate deniability, not deception but distance. You ensure that outcomes trace to processes, not personalities. When questioned, there is nothing to argue with. Systems did it. Timelines decided. You remain adjacent, never exposed. Your alliances are pragmatic. You exchange value without illusion. You keep score privately and settle balances early. Debt creates obligation. Obligation creates control. You ensure the ledger never turns against you. You practice strategic generosity. Small, well-timed concessions buy disproportionate goodwill. You give what costs you little and yields you much. You never give what cannot be reclaimed. Generosity becomes a tool, not a confession. You accept solitude as a cost of altitude. Fewer peers exist where you are headed. You do not lament this. Solitude sharpens judgment. Crowds blur it. You visit crowds when necessary and leave unchanged. You reduce exposure to temptation. Temptation seeks shortcuts. Shortcuts reveal desperation. You choose process over impulse. The absence of visible craving becomes intimidating. Those who want to manipulate you find no handle. You learn to read rooms before entering them. Power dynamics announce themselves quietly. Who interrupts? Who waits? Who laughs too loudly? Who avoids eye contact? You note everything and say little. By the time you speak, the map is complete. You stop negotiating against yourself. Silence replaces concessions. If terms are poor, you wait. Time improves leverage more reliably than pleading. Your willingness to walk remains visible without threat. You accept that misunderstanding is protective. Correcting misconceptions reveals intent. You let false narratives circulate if they shield your real aims. When outcomes arrive, narratives adjust themselves. You cultivate composure under praise as carefully as under attack. Praise tempts disclosure. You receive it neutrally and move on. The absence of hunger for applause preserves mystique. You become precise with boundaries. Boundaries spoken are invitations to negotiate. Boundaries enforced are facts. You enforce once. The lesson travels. You replace hope with preparation. Hope waits. Preparation builds. You prepare redundancies for every dependency. Single points of failure disappear. Confidence grows from systems, not belief. You begin to see fear as information. When others fear you, you calibrate. Too much fear invites coalition. Too little invites testing. You adjust your presence to maintain balance. You master endings. You end conversations, projects, and relationships before decay sets in. Clean endings preserve reputation. Lingering erodes it. You leave people with clarity, not closure. By now, your environment responds differently. Invitations change tone. Requests arrive pre-softened. Conflicts bypass you. You are consulted rather than challenged. This is not respect earned by noise. It is respect conceded to inevitability. You have learned to operate without heat. Decisions emerge from quiet rooms inside you. When you act, it feels sudden to others and obvious to you. That asymmetry is the edge. You are close now. The machinery is built. The habits are set. What remains is to ensure permanence by resisting the final seduction. Comfort. Comfort arrives disguised as relief. It whispers that you have earned rest, that vigilance can soften, that the edge can dull without consequence. This is the last test. Power does not end in triumph. It ends in maintenance. You maintain by refusing the lullaby. You keep rituals small and strict. Wake times, movement, reading, silence. These are not productivity hacks, they are anchors. Anchors keep ships steady when waters look calm. You do not outsource discipline to mood. Mood changes, discipline does not. You guard language. Words shape thought. Thought shapes action. You remove excuses from your vocabulary. You replace complaints with questions. What changed? What leverage shifted? What option remains unseen? You speak to yourself with precision. Vagueness breeds drift. You preserve your inner circle by shrinking it. Access narrows as altitude rises. You choose companions who challenge your clarity, not your ego. You avoid those who trade intimacy for influence. Intimacy without discretion is a leak. You keep your victories quiet. Loud wins attract accountants of envy. Quiet wins compound. You let others celebrate. You invest. The scoreboard matters less than the balance sheet. You continue to practice strategic absence. Even allies should miss you sometimes. Absence refreshes respect. Presence without scarcity becomes background. You appear when it matters. You vanish when it does not. You remember that mercy is timing, not softness. You show it when it strengthens your position and withhold it when it weakens it. Mercy without strength is surrender. Strength without mercy is instability. You choose the line deliberately. You resist the urge to finalize identity. Labels are cages, you remain adaptable. In one room you are calm counsel. In another you are decisive executor. In another you are nothing at all. Fluidity protects you from capture. You keep learning in silence. The moment you believe you have arrived, decay begins. You study systems, incentives, history, psychology, not to admire, to anticipate. Patterns repeat because people do. You treat reputation as a garden. You prune regularly. You remove weeds early. You plant stories with patience. You let others tell them. Stories told by others last longer. You maintain plausible humility. Not the humility of submission, but the humility of focus. You credit processes. You deflect flattery. You avoid grandstanding. This keeps rivals unsure whether you underestimate yourself or them. You master the art of not being needed. Dependence invites resentment. You build redundancy around your role. When you can leave and nothing collapses, your leverage peaks. Freedom is the ultimate advantage. You prepare for reversal. Every position is temporary. Every advantage decays. You plan exits while entries are fresh. You rehearse losses before wins arrive. When loss comes, it finds you rehearsed. You keep your emotions trained, not erased, trained. Anger becomes energy stored, not spent. Fear becomes alertness, not paralysis. Joy becomes fuel, not distraction. You decide when each appears. You never confuse silence with avoidance. Silence is chosen. Avoidance is fear. You engage when engagement serves outcomes. You disengage when it serves endurance. You understand that fear is maintained by consistency, not spectacle. One clean consequence remembered is stronger than many loud threats forgotten. You choose the former. You accept that some will call you cold. Let them. Warmth can be borrowed when useful. Control cannot be borrowed at all. You keep yours. You watch for coalitions forming. Power invites alignment against it. You preempt by sharing limited wins, rotating advantages, and keeping channels open without surrendering position. Balance prevents backlash. You avoid nostalgia. The past is a story others tell to bind you. You live forward. You archive lessons and discard sentiment. You practice the final discipline. You never reveal the full map. Even to yourself, you leave space for surprise. Rigidity kills adaptation. You hold principles tightly and tactics loosely. By now, the world feels different, quieter, slower, not because it changed, but because you did. Noise no longer hooks you. Urgency no longer commands you. Approval no longer owns you. You have built a posture that bends rooms without words, a pace that others match without being asked, a reputation that travels ahead of you and returns with interest. This is not immortality, it is sustainability. You can hold this for years because it costs little. It feeds on discipline, not adrenaline. When conflicts arise, you meet them early and end them cleanly. When opportunities appear, you approach without hunger. Hunger smells. You do not smell. You keep the mask light enough to remove and strong enough to protect. You remember the man beneath it, but you do not offer him to the crowd. Now the cycle closes. You do not announce your arrival. You do not demand recognition. You continue. That is the secret. Continuation is dominance. You have activated the mode that does not need permission. It does not need applause. It does not need to explain. It only needs to persist, and it will.